May 23rd, Sunday night FAAB. Other stuff we're gonna talk about too. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats, what's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement, check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see, what's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head, please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers, ain't no minor league, this is major, yeah. Dingers, let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just G-Man Choi that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Childs joined again by Robbie Baseball from the murder room. What's happening, Robbie?
Nothing. Just typing in a few extra names that we're going to talk about tonight in addition to the FAAB guys, because these are the lean days of FAAB where you can speculate on call-ups, as we discussed before we started recording, or you can talk about the guys who are solidified in their positions moving forward. And that's the better road to talk about. And for dynasty guys like us, this is the way that you win championships. You say, this guy is going to play here, and that's happening, and now they've earned it. And we're going to go over some of those key guys tonight that have really, I think, in the top 60 of standard 5x5, they're now entrenched, and it's a great thing for us as fantasy owners. And that's why I'm doing great. And I'm also super sore because I've shoveled a lot of dirt this weekend, Ty, building gardens. How are you?
Building gardens. I'm good. I played golf today for the first time.
I was going to ask.
Bizarre of Ontario, Canada finally allowed us to play golf here. So that was exciting.
Safe to play golf. Yeah. I bought a canoe today. So we both had great days.
Who is surprised by you buying a canoe? No one. No one is surprised by that at all. But I absolutely striped the golf ball today. It was incredible.
Oh, that's good.
I've not playing golf for a couple weeks now. It went pristinely. So what we did do a little bit of on the golf course was,
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Yeah. What do you have over there tonight, Robbie? That sounded like a fresh can of something that I've not.
It is, yeah. It's Bose Lug Tread.
Nice.
Lager Ale, it says. This is the one with the tractor that when we had Alex Fast on a real long time ago, I was saying my wife bought this because she knew my son would like it because of the tractor. And then we started talking about giving children alcohol. But I want to go back to that to the Fast connection in a moment. But what do you got tonight, Ty?
I mean, surprise to no one. Basil Hayden's. It's a staple. I am Sans wife and kid today. They went
really?
Oh yeah. So it's like
that's
quiet.
So nice.
I had to watch golf today. It's great. So I mean, I'm ready to talk some baseball. So let's do that. Alex Fast. What's the story?
So since we did our pilot episode on Clubhouse, on the Clubhouse app, where everybody got to talk about their love of baseball, and beforehand we had a little room a private room where everybody got together that was on the panel to chat. And since that time, Ty, Ellen Adair has appeared on In This League. Prior to that, Michael Govier had already been on, not any connection whatsoever with us. He was on ITL with the Chris Welsh, who was on the panel with us. Govier has also been on Chris McBrien, our dear Mr. Fantasy. He has been on his Pop Goes Your World movie podcast or pop culture podcast. They talked about they each picked a list of top 5 songs from the 80s. It was hilarious. But there's been a lot of crossover. Alex Fast was also on with Govier. So that's how it all came together. So I feel like through Clubhouse and the community building that we want to be doing there, we were able to very successfully do that. Whether that was directly, indirectly, everybody knew of each other beforehand, but whether they had gotten any of this arranged or not, I don't care. Let's just take credit.
That's right. We are a connector of the people.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do. So
people helping people.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And that's what we're here to do tonight. We're going to connect you with other people that can help you win. And I don't know if you want to start on the 2-star pitchers tonight, Robbie, or if we want to get into maybe some of the bats. I think 2-star pitchers are the pressing one because that is
Sure.
one of the main things that wins you championships is getting healthy pitching. And as we all know, pitching's very unhealthy right now. So let's start there and let's talk about ways to win your week.
Sure. So this is going to be everybody that we know is confirmed and lined up for 2 starts this week. And their ownership is going to vary, but we're just going to talk about who they are first and then anything that could happen with them throughout the week. So I'll rhyme off the names, Ty, and then we can circle back, which starts us off with Ross Stripling in Toronto. He's got Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Zach Ethelen with Philly is starting off this week with Miami. Trevor Rogers opposes him with Miami, and he has just been on fire. Spencer Turnbull, Mr. No-Hitter, starts his week off with Cleveland, always a good team to face off against first for the week. Then we have Henches. We struggled with this last time, but it's okay because he's got a 6.46 ERA or average. Yeah, ERA, and I don't think anyone's going to care. Kikuchi with Seattle looks like he could get 2 starts next week. Brandon Woodruff, obviously owned everywhere. Lance Lynn, same deal. Ha-Seong Kim, only 34% owned in St. Louis. He's a sneaky dude. Starts off with the White Sox and then takes on Arizona. That's a good combo. To be determined with San Diego. Still not announced at this point in time, so we're waiting to find that out. If we do, we'll post something up on Twitter if we think it's relevant for you to know. Another no-hitter, John Means, goes up against Minnesota to start his week, and he's opposing Matt Shoemaker in a 6.08 ERA. Ugly 2-5 record for the Shoe. Then we've got Austin Gomber with Colorado. This one I like, New York Mets and Pittsburgh, and that 4.96 ERA. He's at New York and I think home to Pittsburgh. I'll confirm when we get back to him. 2-4 record, could be 4-4 by the end of this week because the Mets have been playing like Kevin Pillar's face, which is awful. To be determined is the Mets starter tomorrow, which I'm still
that might be their best starter, just for the record.
At the moment, yeah. I'm not sure if DeGrom's gonna be back on that. So
on Tuesday.
It is.
They announced
okay, so he's Tuesday. Okay, so maybe that's why it's 2 weeks. So I'll have a quick look. We'll see if we can find that guy for you. And then Ryan Yarbrough will go tomorrow. It's the 4th game of the 4-game series against Toronto, and Tampa Bay is looking to sweep a 4-gamer and bring the Jays back to 500. So those are all the 2-start guys confirmed, and a couple that we're gonna have to circle back to. So Ty, let's start off at the top because I like this one, and I know you got something to say about Mr. 7.2 ERA Ross Stripling.
Just I am out, and it is just a hard sell at this point on Ross Stripling.
Might be a drop. Depending on your league, it might be you very soon. Like, he's just not worth putting on your bench, and the lineup matchups aren't helping.
The only thing I would say is if you're shallow in the bullpen, like, he's a good waiver pickup for me. If you need help in the bullpen, because he's going to be an effective 5-0 guy. I really believe that. I think in five bats or 2 innings, maybe, like, I think he can be a really effective piece on your fantasy roster. Kind of like what we've seen out of Garrett Whitlock in Boston. I think he could fill that kind of role. So, that's the only thing I will say is that if you own him, I don't know, only drop if you're deep in the bullpen. But
yeah, if it's saves only, I think, Ty, because with 29 Ks and 25 innings, that's good. Yes. But he's 2% owned, so nobody else cares about him. So you could very well let him go if he does lose his starting job, which I'd like you to touch on in a moment, and then come back to it. But a guy with a whip of 1.76 is not helping your team no matter what. And if that's coming out of the bullpen, you're now asking him to even up that K count, but the whip's been the issue, so that might continue. And with Toronto today, like Tyler Chatwood blew a save. Blew not a save. He blew a lead, blew a tie, whatever it was. He blew it. He lost.
He bounced.
He's bound. Yeah. So, and he was one of the guys that Toronto was talking about, being a high leverage role. Like, oh my God, talk about the carousel. Like, if there's a team that needs a guy, he's been
really good. This is his first time in that last inning role because DeLeese has looked terrible the last couple of weeks, and they were giving him a shot. Now, people can be critical of Toronto. They're banged up. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, we're seeing the results of it. The team has played well enough to win like 5 of the last 6 games, but the bullpen has really let them down after going so strong. And we talked about this, like, comparing them to Boston, right? Like, this is what we thought was going to happen to Boston because they were heavy on the relievers. Boston stayed healthy, and that's allowed them to not run into this issue. Toronto's about to get some resources back, so that'll be helpful. Some of the big arms are starting to get healthy again. So,
well, and Lourdes and Biggio going out as well, Ty. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Lourdes and Biggio going out open up opportunities for guys to get regular playing time. So you got to look and see who are my Toronto starters that I want to see get runs. And it doesn't actually shallow the team out. It hurts the bench, but that's okay because you can continue to roll. Now, of course, we need Springer back in order to say it's okay to lose two of your should-be everyday starters in Biggio and Lourdes. But at the same time, it's not like they've been decimated. They're not the Mets, right? And the guys that are on the Jays who are playing that are supposed to be good are good. Vladdy's good. Bo's good. Grichuk's playing good baseball. Teoscar, beautiful.
Fourth, a bomb. Yep. Lots to like there. But yeah, but Ross is going to be a long inning guy. And frankly, the Jays need a long inning guy. They don't have one right now. That's an effective guy. Like Joel Payamps has been thrown into that role. He doesn't belong. So, I think this will actually make the team better, but they need to fill that rotation because, the first two spots in that rotation have been very good. And then the back half has been very bad. So that puts a lot of stress on your bullpen. But yeah, I think for me, that's a drop or a move to the pen. And after that, I'm good. Zach Ethelen, on the other hand, next on the list, is a guy that I've owned all season in many formats. I've been a fan of Ethelen. I watched a lot of him in spring training. And the cutter's everything. Now, where Ethelen has struggled is the first inning, first two innings in some games. But once he's gotten through that, he's had long outings. He's been an absolute workhorse for Philly. So he should be, owned in every league. He's not owned in every league, but I would imagine that there's a lot of people that would be willing to sell on Zach Ethelen. And this is the kind of guy that I like to buy because he's a workhorse. He's not the kind of guy that's going to putter out over the end of the season. Like, I'm not going to be not going to lie to you here, Robbie. The next guy concerns me over the length of this season. He's been really, really, really good, and that's Trevor Rogers. Two very different frames. Rogers still building up his innings, and he's been one of the best in all of baseball so far, right? No one's going to argue that. But this is the difference. You got to know when to get off the ride. And for me, I'm getting off on Trevor Rogers, but I'm staying in on Zach Ethelen. So that's not getting off like from a dynasty perspective. I'm getting off of redraft. If I'm looking to win this season, I'm using Trevor Rogers' success to make me better to win. Because
I thought you were talking sexually.
Yeah, no. But,
no, so what I meant was, is this, sorry, Ty, is this because Chris Paddock has hurt you?
Not at all.
No, it's okay. Cause like I've been there where like somebody starts well, and then now it seems like it's just, they're not the pitcher they were supposed to be. And I'm wondering if maybe you're a little hesitant because as a Paddock owner and someone who I have traded to you in the past, maybe you're just like upset. And this is just kind of tightening your noose on a guy like Rogers, who had a cup of coffee last year with Miami and got to come back this year. And a lot of expectations were certainly lower for Rogers. This was supposed to be Sixto Sanchez breakout year, not Trevor Rogers.
I have zero issues with Trevor Rogers. Like, it's not a guy I want to run away from. What I'm trying to say is that if I'm trying to win a championship this season, Trevor Rogers is likely going to get tired on the back half of this season. And I've talked about this before, Robbie, like talking about guys that don't have the inning count. They come out, Spencer Turnbull's a great example next on our list of a guy that came into the pros, had some good success early on, then got tired towards the back end of the season. And although Trevor Rogers is a better pitcher than Spencer Turnbull, that reality is still a thing. That's just growth. That's the hitters making the adjustment to the young guy. And it's part of the progression. So if you're in a single season right now, whether it's dynasty or redraft, and you're trying to win right now, it is a good idea to trade Trevor Rogers because you're going to get the most for him right now. And that's all I'm trying to say. It's not that I want out on Trevor Rogers if I'm rebuilding. It's only if you're trying to win this season.
If this is the year and he's the piece that gets the trade done. I won't argue with that. Now, Ethelen, K per 9 is bang on, 1-to-1. Rogers 65 Ks to 51 and 2/3 innings. The whip is a little better for Rogers, but if you're talking about regression and the potential for a lot of change in the second half, Ethelen certainly is a safer bet as far as rolling through. And then to your point with Turnbull's a perfectly serviceable pitcher, 31% owned. Even after, a no-hitter, he still has not jumped big in ownership, which means people are like, I don't know. And then Cleveland is the first matchup. I'm going to quickly check who that second one is this week.
And real quick, just anyone watching wants to comment and ask any questions, we're here to answer them for you. If you have any questions about who to pick up this week, or anyone you're on the fence on, maybe it's a trade review, just hit us up in the comments, click into the live stream here and fire away. So
Yeah, the Yankees are that second matchup, Ty. So it's not like it gets a little better for Spencer Turnbull this week, but he does have one against Cleveland, which should be solid. And then, see what happens against the Yankees. He might even pair up against Cole.
Turnbull is a sneaky good pitcher. Like, just because he's been in Detroit, like people don't want him. So it's one of those guys. Like,
well, and people are upset about all the no-hitters too, right? Yeah, so Spencer Turnbull, he shouldn't get a no-hitter. All these guys are elite, man. It's just at the MLB level, there are tiers of their eliteness. And people think Spencer Turnbull shouldn't be in on that. But if you're going to see all of these, 6 no-hitters right now? If we're going to see all of these because guys are selling out because the ball this, because da-da-da-da, then tell me why there are still several games with, 18 or more runs.
Well,
right?
And here's
like 3 true outcome is the thing. And when it's hitters that win, the score is ridiculous. When it's pitchers that win, we're seeing no-hitters. So,
let me ask you this. Like, there's 2 guys here, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Which one do you think is better? And I think most people would pick one: Spencer Turnbull or John Means, right? Like, for me, they're the same pitcher, right-handed, left-handed.
Okay.
Right. So, like, I don't see much of a difference between those 2 guys. And Means is productive, and everybody wants to own him. And Turnbull's productive, and everyone's like, right. So neither of them are going to get you wins. So, it's just.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Ty, because Means at 94% owned, a 170 ERA, 4-0 versus Turnbull 288 ERA, 3-2. But if we're talking over the length of the season, although Baltimore has not been the dumpster fire that is expected, and for some reason everybody just thinks Baltimore is this terrible team. Like, they're in games, like pitchers like Jorge Lopez and Matt Harvey are in the rotation every 5th day, and they're getting it done because they've got professional hitters. They're playing solid defense. Freddie Galvis at shortstop is a good thing for any MLB team. They can be competitive, but again, at the end of the day, like you said, they're just not getting the wins. So over 162, it's not going to be 14 wins for Means.
And Trey Mancini is now the MLB RBI leader.
There you go.
So
that's good for Trey Mancini.
Exactly. Yep. A guy that's like a year removed from colon cancer. So good on him. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation because, again, this is the difference, right? Do you not buy the player just because you don't like what you see, or because he plays on the team? Like, a lot of people do it because they're on the right team. Now, Sam Hankey is the next guy on the list. That's a multiple factor. Like, I'm not buying Sam Hankey's because it's Sam Hankey.
You're calling him Hankies?
That's what I'm going with. That's what I've heard him called. So
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Maybe we got to ask the Rotosaurus boys.
We could say Hentges. I don't know. Like,
I'm hitting that G. I haven't heard a lot of silent G's.
He could have the fans could be the henchmen or Hentmans. I don't know.
Well, right now his whip is making him look more like a humpback. It's 209. So 15 innings pitched and 15 Ks, 1-1 record, but the ERA, woof. So for fantasy purposes, again, we'll just reiterate, we're talking the fantasy things. We don't like to get into all the advanced stats. We're talking baseball, so we're talking matchups. If they've got pitches that we find, good, bad, or otherwise, as Ty's already alluded to, with splitters, cutters. We're talking baseball here. If you want to get into advanced metrics, stare at the computer screen, which is what we do before we start recording, before we go live, because this is entertainment information. This is not us droning into the microphone. So that's why we're talking about the 5x5. We're talking about ownership percentage on Yahoo, because that's one of the widely played formats. And people often reference something to us in DMs that say, in my 12-team league, in my 10-team league, which prior to this year, I think we kind of just assumed everyone that listened to us, which was a small audience that's grown, we're all in 20+ team leagues. So because of that, we're trying to make sure that everybody understands the fantasy points here. Like, it doesn't matter if Kike Hernandez is good for 7 days. He's not expected to be good over the course of the year, but he's got multi-position eligibility. Well, is that going to help you? And then let's have that conversation. Let's not talk about the barrel rate, the launch angle, like, what's happened this time and that time on the air for every single guy. Let's just, talk terms. So anyway, Ty, sorry. Off topic.
Next guys, you say Kikuchi. He's got Oakland and a second.
I say Kikuchi. You say no, thank you. Right? So
I just say Stell. I'm not a Kikuchi fan in any way right now. He's a soft thrower. I love artists. Like Hyunjin Ryu is an artist.
Yes,
Kikuchi's
beautiful to watch him pitch.
Soft thrower, and there's a difference. And I'm just not a fan. I mean, he's not the worst start in Seattle, right? He's not the worst home start ever, but it's just the guy that I'm staying away from. And Seattle couldn't look worse right now. Like they might be the dumpster fire of Major League Baseball right now.
Well, he's in Oakland this year, or sorry, he's in Oakland tomorrow, and home to Texas looks like Sunday,
which are reasonable matchups for a lefty, right? Like they are, because all the damage gets done from the left side on both of those rosters. So it's definitely an interesting matchup for him. I'm out just because I'm not a Kikuchi guy, but like it's biased, right. I know, but I'm out for that reason.
But did you know, Ty, that he has 53 Ks and only 50 innings so far this year? So
I did know he's been better.
Yeah, that is an improvement. And the 1.10 whip, which has fluctuated, it bumped up a little bit the last 2 weeks, but a little bit. So he's been in control. And I used to always go by the 1.2, and it started out as the 1.25 whip, where I'm like, I don't want anybody over that, because I realized that just basically screwed me in that category no matter what. If that's where they were averaging, I'm going to lose every week in whip. So I wanted to find people who were going to contain themselves lower. So I was like, well, that's my threshold, like 1.2 now, 1.2. And now I'm thinking, well, maybe 1.2 is like, I don't want to roster more than 2 of those guys. I want more consistency. And if Kikuchi's providing that consistency, this 6-man rotation in Seattle is not ruining some of these dudes. It's what is it? Justin Dunn. He's looking okay too. So anyway,
Justin Dunn is like Steven Matz in Toronto, or if you get 3 out of 5 starts from Justin Dunn that are good, that's what you're looking for. Kikuchi for me, it's if you get 2 out of 5, then I think you just have to be really cautious with where you're starting them. Speaking of cautious starts, Woodruff against San Diego, that's a no-go for me. Tatis is ripping the cover off the ball. He had a huge day today. I mean, Woodruff has been nothing but fantastic, so it's hard to say that, but I just traditionally don't start anyone against San Diego.
And Washington's his second start as well, Ty.
Which isn't the worst one. So like if you're in a Monday like start league where you're starting a guy for the whole week, like it might be worth.
You can bite it on Monday and hope for the best. Hope for single digits if it's a bad day for Woodruff, and then you can look to cash in on Sunday. It's where are they? They are away in Washington and home to San Diego. So
so
that's a tough matchup.
And San Diego's got to fly across the country, right? Because they're at home today, in Milwaukee tomorrow. So that's a heading east trip, which for those of you that travel know how much that trip sucks. Especially getting a flight out of San Diego. I mean, they're going to be chartering from there, but still, not the funnest trip ever. Next guy on the list, very similar kind of setup is Lance Lynn. I'm cautious against fastballs against St. Louis. That's my thing. Like Lance Lynn is a traditional fastball guy, and you know what? St. Louis just might know a thing or two about Lance Lynn. So that might not be the greatest decision of your life to run him out there, even though he's been stellar this season.
He does have that second start against Baltimore. That might be the saving grace, similar to the Woodruff, right?
Fastballs, like, if you got a young team with some inexperience in Baltimore, like fastball hunting is what they do. So, Lance Lynn continues to get fastballs by people, and it's absolutely impressive. He's maybe the only guy in baseball as a starter that can run fastball heavy and get away with it. So good on him. I would be really cautious in those 2 starts this week, which is weird for me because like I'm overly cautious this season.
You're playing scared a little bit. You were just telling me before we started that you benched a few dudes in our home league, but you've got I was gonna say you got the win, right? I'm pretty sure I've locked and loaded my home league win. I'm looking off camera here because I'm checking some of the matchups, which I usually do beforehand, but like I said, shoveling, and I bought a canoe today. But yeah, I was pretty sure before today started, I had 8 categories in our 8x8 league. So I was sure I was going to be okay. And it looks as though, I mean, I've hit 15 home runs in that league this week.
Well, thank you. In that league, new guy Mike is taking down Boogie Nights, which is the like perennial runner up, which is fantastic.
In the regular season.
No, and in the finals sometimes too.
Oh, I didn't know he'd ever appeared.
I beat him in one of my championships.
Okay.
I outmanaged him to a tie, and I knew the tiebreaker went in my favor. So
I outmanaged him to a tie.
Anyway, so before we get off track, let's we were touching on Lance Lynn, but you talked about Kim in St. Louis going the other way against the White Sox this week, up against Lance Lynn. Is there a guy that you like there? Like I'm not starting anybody against the White Sox either, especially a lefty. So
I'm going to slide Kim in. I'm taking Kim because I like Kim for the 2 starts. Chicago White Sox, yes, a little banged up. Yankees were able to, do some. I mean, yes, it was Cole, but even Tyon didn't get hurt. I think yesterday against them. So yesterday or today?
Tyon's been looking good lately.
He's been better. ERA is still over 5 for the year, and certainly somebody to talk about in the future. Maybe next week for us, I'll put him on the board so we can discuss, because the Tommy John return season is the one that throws everybody off, but that's also the season to cash in Dynasty. So anyway, Kim, 2.73 ERA this year in 26 1/3 innings, only 1 win at this moment in time, 27 Ks and a 1.29 whip. But again, we're early enough in the year with his inning count, right? He's half of what the bulk of the other guys have. Spencer Turnbull, 34 innings, but a lot of the other guys we've talked about have 50 or more. And that's one of those things where Kim started the year late and then slow build up. And I think he's rolling, and I like him. Like even last year, he was beating the odds when people were kind of against him. And in the few leagues where I do own him, I'm a very happy Kim owner. He is another one of the starters who was dropped in my TGFBI league that I picked up, where I drafted heavy on my pitching on my hitters, and decided I was going to, incrementally improve with my pitching staff. And it's slowly working. Long season, Ty. It's a long season. But yeah, then we've got the to be determined with San Diego tomorrow, which we said we'll figure out. Means you already touched on. And then that brings us to Matty Shoemaker. Are we good to call it quits on Shoemaker? And maybe we'll check back with him in July and see if he's righted his ship at all. But it's pretty ugly right now.
Yeah, I mean, anybody in Minnesota that's running out there, like Maeda got hurt the other night. Like there's not
Hap has pumpkined, right? He's it's hit midnight for him.
Surprise, he's like what, 44 now? Like
you also said Hap early in the year, and then sell, and that was something. Yeah, and I think that was a good strategy. And where I had him, I did not sell, and it burned me very badly. But that's my own fault, because I thought one more start, right? One more. And then after I had one bad one, I thought, let's see one more. And I think his last start, he just blew up. Actually, probably would have been 2 starts ago, because I cut him after the last one. But
and Minnesota has a clubhouse issue, I think, more so than a pitching issue. I think there's something going on over there. Like they suck.
Well, they also keep putting in Astudillo to pitch, right? They're getting their tits lit, and then they're putting in Astudillo because it's funny. I don't get it.
Is he going to get 2 starts this week?
Yes, he's looking for 4 outs, give up 4 dingers, but that goes back with the White Sox and Mercedes and all that crap, which we don't really need to worry about, talk about on here. But I agree, there's got to be something going on in Minnesota, because it's not clicking, and it's supposed to be their division, despite the White Sox being good. The White Sox also have 2 devastating outfield injuries. Yes. So, but that brings us to Austin Gomber. Gomber this year's 45 1/3 innings, 2-4, 47 Ks in those 45 innings. ERA is just under 5. Whip is just over 1.25 at 1.3. But again, the 2 matchups this week, the Mets, which I like, and Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh's at home. I'll double check that right now.
These are good matchups. Right?
Yeah, this is a guy who nobody likes anymore, right? Because everybody thought, oh, he's going to be great, and they're like, wait a second, he got blown up. Well, like Kershaw got blown up. Castillo I know Castillo's been good this year, but a lot of good pitchers just suck in Colorado. You've talked about it before. Baumgartner got ripped.
Well, and let's remember, we talked about the nature of the front office decision making, which is let's get guys that aren't going to get crushed, right? And so, like most teams have like excellence written on their clubhouse. They have don't suck, right? Like that's not exactly what you.
They're like the Mighty Ducks show, the Game Changers, the one that's on Disney. It's the team name is the Don't Bothers. So that's like if Colorado was to, or sorry, if there was to be a Mighty Duck version movie and it was in baseball, it would be Colorado, and they would be called the Don't Sucks. Which also is a Joe Madden beer in Chicago. By the way, both starts are away. So he's in Pittsburgh, in New York.
That's a good 2-start streamer right there. Is what that is. But I turned off the Ducks. I had it on for 30 seconds with my kid, and I couldn't handle it because the scene that I watched had Gordon Bombay pumping slap shots on goal with his shoes on, and then a limo
didn't look right.
the ice.
No,
does a power slide And I was just like,
oh.
I am totally out from.
But do you know who
everything.
came out of the limo in that
It
scene?
was all the former players.
The
yes.
original Ducks.
I know, I saw it, but like, I mean, the most impressive part of that scene was the limo power slide. The slap shots with shoes on were not.
But that
impressive.
should be. Do you know how hard it is to take slap
I-
shoes on ice? Oh my
do.
gosh. With
I
shoes.
do.
Sorry, with shoes.
I do.
Okay.
I've tried it
Okay.
and fallen doing it. So
Then you should respect Bombay for doing it. They're 9 episodes in. I encourage everyone to watch it and then tweet me at RobbieBaseball1. We can talk about it. I not live streamed. I like commented or tweeted on a couple as I was watching them because I was really happy. And then a few of my friends who I grew up with and played hockey with started messaging me about it. So now I just talk to them. I'm like, let me know when you're ready to have that Mighty Duck conversation. And we're talking about how like it's the firm that the mom works at is Ducksworth law firm. We're like, oh, those little Easter eggs. But anyway, so is that's all the streamers. Yarbrough, it's just he's a dude.
I'm struggling with Yarbrough, and the Jays got him a little bit last time, which is his start tomorrow. So I'm a little terrified of Yarbrough, if I'm completely honest.
The Jays did get Glasnow the previous, like not this past Friday, but
I was
the
saying
previous
this to
two
our
they
friend
did.
Jonathan Mason this week. Like Glasnow has to be tipping pitches, and the Jays have to
know it.
Yeah, like there's no way. Like Vladdy's home run on the hook was a hook up at his eyeballs, and he was sitting on it. Like, and it wasn't an adjustment. It was just he knew it was coming. And no one sits on a hook at the top of the zone. I'm sorry.
So it's home to Philly and in Dunedin.
Mm-hmm.
So taking on the Phillies next Sunday. They've got a weird week. They go to KC because of the Monday. Oh, that's right, because the Jays will be moving. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. So here are some potential guys to stream tie, and we can discuss. So if you're in a situation where all hope is lost, and I know we're going to talk about one guy for the third week in a row, this is the fault of the other people who don't already own him. But we've got Michael Fulmer with Detroit, 34% owned. Rich Hill, third week in a row. With Tampa Bay, 47% owned. Casey Mize in Detroit, 35% owned. We know in Dynasty, it's a different situation. However, we can discuss it because you can look at what's going on in Yahoo and redraft, and a lot of the Dynasty players are using a redraft mindset here. Chris Bubic with KC, 18% owned. Vince Velasquez with Philly, 10% owned. And Randy Dobnak. Remember Randy Dobnak signed that deal before the season started? Then he got sent down and things weren't looking good. Well, in his last 30 days, the last month, he's at a 1.64 ERA. But on the season, he's got 16 Ks and 20 in a third innings. And the whip is high, 1.28, but it's not gross, as we talked about with some others.
Background, which isn't always
exactly.
His strength. Like he's just quietly effective. Really interesting guy. I mean,
started on Friday, quality start. I don't think he got the win. I don't remember if he got the win.
He's just a great SP5
5Ks.
Like just the kind of guy to fill out your rotation, and a lot of these guys are like Rich Hill. I feel like the bump in his ownership is strictly because of us. Because
like that's why it's so little.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
No one else is talking about him. Michael Fulmer, is looking like a reliever. He has great reliever repertoire.
Saves.
Yeah, he's got a good repertoire to come out of the bullpen. So it's effective. It's nice to see a guy that once looked promising, then looked very not promising, and now has a new relief role. And a guy that has good stuff, just not for 6 innings. So, definitely lots to like there.
Well, 9 1/3 the last 14 days, he's dialed it in. Right. Yeah. So 3 wins and 4 saves. You can call that weird, Ryan Yarbrough's been there before. We just mentioned him. Guys who just get those important stats. Well, sometimes you just want to own them, right? Like Michael Fulmer might not be the worst guy to put in your pitcher slot. If you've got SP spots, RP spots, and P spots, maybe you just pick up Fulmer and just put him in there and then give it 2 weeks, right? And if you had in the last 2 weeks, you'd be rewarded with wins and saves in addition to some decent ratios. So
I think he's got to take a chance at the back end of that.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah. Like I really do. I think he's
interesting.
I think he's going to be a closer. Like, I think he's got,
it's going to be him.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly like if Gregory Soto is his only competition, like, come on. Like,
right.
If you had to pick
Garcia's not there. And
yeah, like Fulmer has the upside. So that's the guy for me. And I think it's his job to lose at this point.
All right. I'm going to just check here last 2 weeks if that's when the saves have all come for him.
And I mean,
2 saves the last week, 3 the last 2 weeks. So yeah, he's rounding it.
Yep. And if you're in a redraft format and Casey Mize and Chris Bubic are not owned, then you need to be the owner of them, because they're both going to come around. Casey Mize is already showing signs of the breakout. It might be too late in a lot of your leagues. Bubic is a guy that very few people know about unless you're Rob, or have listened to Rob talk. And I mean, I probably wouldn't have been as knowledgeable about him if Rob wasn't talking about him as much as he does.
Way back when it was the KC6, right?
I should have cut the tweet that you had today or yesterday and put it up here on the screen for the listeners.
Yeah. But yeah, it was supposed to be, you know, Casey has the right starters to turn around what has been a poor rotation the past few years. And Danny Duffy's awesome breakout in April. I don't want to call it breakout. His awesome April and into May was great, but that he's never the plan. He's never part of the plan. Like it, you know, it's supposed to be Brad Keller. He's the current dude who's supposed to be in. Bubic, Lynch, Singer, they've all been up 4 of those 6. So the only guys left now are Jackson Cower, who crushed it at AAA, 10 Ks, quality start on Friday night, I think it was. And then Asa Lacy, who's the last guy to come up, last year's first round pick. So the pieces, the parts are all there for Kansas City, but Bubic might be the one who's able to come up that people care the least about, because it was 3 years ago, maybe, that he had his high strikeout, and then it was the adjustment. So I'm thinking that was maybe 19 that he had the high Ks, and everyone was like, suppress, because not everybody buys everything. But when, who was it with Detroit that came out of nowhere? Skubal. When Tariq Skubal was striking everybody out, people were going crazy. Oh my God, he's better than Mize. He's better than Manning. And when Chris Bubic was doing it, they're like, yeah, it is. I just don't know about him. Daniel Lynch seems like the guy. Daniel Lynch likes the guy. So right now, to go with the performer. And if you own him in Dynasty, where I've got a couple shares of him, I'm really happy to have him. You know, it's a good thing. And if I own Daniel Lynch in a few, as we talked about before, I'm not pressing the panic button. I understand that in Dynasty, I have the time to wait. Now, if I'm in redraft, Lynch is gone, Bubik's in. I've already done it in one of my leagues, and that's because I'm going to roll with those guys who are successful but are up. There's no point in waiting on somebody to come up. Like, there's no point in waiting on Nate Pearson when his previous time up was not good. Go get somebody who may have had one start that nobody picked up on in your league. Boom, put them on your team. Lock and load. There will be guys on your team who you think are good, who might be, if you look at like season rankings, somebody might say, you know, they're 180th overall. And you're like, well, that's good. Like, our league has 300 guys, but in the last month, they could have been like ranked 800th. Like, look at what's going on with your team. Sit down, give each team, for each fantasy league you're in, give it at least 10 minutes a week that you are spending saying, well, who else is out there? Who can make me better? Where am I losing? Because a lot of my matchups where I'm losing or winning, and it's within 2 categories, and especially in our home league tie, like, I'm not blowing the doors off of anybody. It's all really close. So I keep thinking, well, where do I need to make those incremental improvements? Or is it just because I continue to throw everybody out there constantly, no matter what, no matter the matchup? I'm trying to get counting stats. So do I need to start to stream a little bit more? And I like to wait until midseason to do that. But at the same time, if I'm not winning or if I'm not blowing the doors off guys, I need to start to consider it. So Bubic is the guy who right now, 14 Ks and 18 2/3. The whip is under 1. He hasn't got a win yet. ERA is below 1. He's got one category that looks good. That's his ERA, and it's in just a couple starts. You could still scoop in and get him.
And super soft contact guy, you know, and still lots of innings to go this season. But listen to this, and I know we just talked about earlier about not using advanced stats, but like,
well, for cool. Everybody, not using advanced stats for everybody. So here, please,
negative 0.6 launch angle. You don't see that very often so far this season. So that will change, right? It will get up there a little bit higher than that. But early success, soft contact kind of guy. So know what you're getting. You're not going to get a ton of strikeouts. And these are guys that are really good late picks in drafts, because everybody goes for the big K guys. They get it off the board early. And then guys like Bubic can win any championships. So, you know, just a guy to know. So we've kind of killed the pitchers tonight, Robbie. So let's talk on the hitting side, unless you got anything else.
Just very quickly on Vince Velasquez, because everybody hates him, and I get it.
He's frustrating.
I get it. 3.52 ERA, 1 win this year, but 40 Ks in 30 2/3 innings, and the whip is at 1.34. Quietly good, and he might be a 2-start pitcher. Might be.
He might get Tuesday. Right now?
Yes, and that's why it's maybe, because he missed a start on Thursday, and I think he came in and pitched on Friday in relief. So he could end up in on Tuesday. So it's a maybe. But again, just think of the possibilities depending on your league. A guy that's 10% owned. I would take a chance on Gomber as my first pick. If there's a second guy where pretty much no one's going to own him, it would be Vince Velasquez for next week. Okay, I'm done.
All good. Nope, that's fine. On the hitting side, though, we've got a lot of interesting bats here. Some coming back from injury, other our younger guys winning some time. But let's start with Bobby Dalbeck, who's a guy that I think a lot of people were excited about heading into this season. Power for days and a little bit of swing and miss to his game. Not so different than his teammate Rafael Devers a couple years ago. So where are you at on Bobby Dalbeck at this point, Robbie?
In our home league, I both drafted, dropped, and then picked him back up. So when Alonso went on the IL, I had a lot of moves in our league last week, which
so it was a buy, sell,
sell,
hold.
buy.
No, buy then hold.
I'll do
it again. Buy, sell, buy, then hold.
Hold. Yes, thank you. All of them. You hit them all.
Nailed it.
And it was simply a matter of Dalbeck and Pete Alonso, and I was like, well, I'm going to stick with Pete Alonso. So I dropped Dalbeck because he wasn't doing well, but I'm okay with waiting on guys in our home league. When the bench allows it, it's a smart thing to do. And we're only mid-May at the point in which I dropped him, or maybe very early on in May. And then Alonso gets hurt, and I'm like, well, I'm going back to Dalbeck. And over the last 14 days, 286 average, but on the season, it's 218, so it doesn't look good. So nobody cares. 25% owned in Yahoo as a result. 11 runs, 21 RBIs, a stolen base, 5 dingers. Cool. It's getting better. And as Boston continues to exceed expectations, if a guy like Dalbeck can start to turn it around at the end of their lineup and start to possibly move up a few spots in the lineup, that's going to spell more runs because he's going to have better guys behind him to hit. Not that when he's at the end of the line and turns it over that it's not going to be okay, but he's probably going to be coming up with fewer outs in the innings, and it's going to give him more opportunities to drive runs in. So it's a good thing that Bobby Dalbeck is doing well as Boston is doing well, because I don't think Boston's going to move off. And dynasty wise, I think no one is going to be willing to sell him right now. I just don't think it's possible. And if I owned him anywhere, I certainly would not be looking to sell personally. We talked about in the preseason, first base is tough in dynasty because you don't know what's going on. We're really happy. Jared Walsh, and we're folks who have talked, I talked positively of Jared Walsh. Sorry, I said Welsh. Jared Walsh prior to the season, thinking that this was a good thing for him. Pujols was in the way. Now Pujols is a Dodger. And Dalbeck is another one of those guys. Was he going to play every day? Right.
The only thing I'll say is Boston needs to get some pitching, especially if they're going to be competitive this year. So the odds are Dalbeck or Michael Chavis. One of those two needs to be traded to get a piece, right? Because I don't think you can justify having all that depth when you have guys coming. Like there's still more infield depth coming behind these guys. So I think the more likely guy to go would be a Dalbeck because they have more replacements in the system for him than they do for infield depth. So that would be an interesting decision that front office could make. I mean, they have guys further away that they might want to deal, but if they're going to be competitive this year, they're going to need to go find a starter. And every team except for Baltimore in the AL East is going to be looking for starters here come July. So, that's
could be a good year to be selling a starter.
I mean, if you're
AL.
If you're Cincinnati, just wait for that phone to ring, right? If you're Colorado, you're just waiting for that phone to ring. Like those two teams specifically have high-end starters to trade. So,
I did finally hear, it was fast talking with Govier on hey, it's Enrico Palazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I did hear them discuss.
That was an excellent Govier impression.
Thank you. I did hear them talk about John Gray. And it was on their live stream. So I just plugged in and said, hey, future Toronto Blue Jay right there. But because that's what we're trying to will it into existence. So the more people we tell, the better it is. But if you are one of those teams that's not competitive, like you just said, last year, Toronto acquired, they acquired Ray for Bergen, who they got back, and some cash or something like that.
Just cash. It'll be just cash.
Okay. At the end of the day. And then Tyon Walker from Seattle, and it wasn't very expensive. I feel like this year it could be far more costly. It could be, and costly in the sense of like a prospect that's on a team's top 20-ish list, something like that, which when you're talking about depth and organizations, that's where this next guy is fascinating. Nick Maton with Philly, the second base shortstop, who is only supposed to have a little cup of coffee, just come up and fill in for a bit of injury. Segura and the team wasn't hopping on all things. Well, no, this is a 276 hitter who's done really well with the team. 8 ribbies, 8 runs, 2 stolen bases, 2 dingers, and he's fitting in with the Phillies. So I like him as somebody who's only owned in 6% on Yahoo, who can help you if you are the Willie Adames owner. I don't care that he just went to Milwaukee. Like I cut him everywhere I had him. Maton I've picked up or I've replaced him, and I don't care. Like, you know, it's not an empty average because he's not doing 310 or anything silly like that. Like, he's been up and down, but that's part of that adjustment that you talk about a lot, Ty. So I think he's just a good fit rest of the season. Now, again, Segura comes back. We got to see what the playing time is going to be like.
Well, Segura is back. It's Didi. That's the one.
Oh, sorry. It's Didi. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So it was one to the other.
The reality is, like, Maton's playing time is going to go away, but can he play center? Right? Will they try him in center? Because they definitely have a need for a center fielder there. It's a revolving door in Philly right now.
It's too bad that you can't just have a guy play defense and then a different guy hit.
Yeah.
You know, like a DH for any position.
Because Nick Maton has not had a lot of fun on the defensive side of the ball. He might be helping you in your fantasy team, but he is not helping Philadelphia Phillies win baseball games.
Yeah, if you're a fan, you're not too pumped to see him there. Now, somebody who nobody likes to see is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is John VR. Now with the injury-riddled Mets and getting his time. So this is 100% a streamer and 100% the same reason he gets drafted every year. Stolen bases, because the average is poop 216. He does have 13 runs and 12 RBIs, and for some reason 4 dingers. I don't know what happened, but he's got 4, but he's also got 4 stolen bases, and that's what you're going to want out of him. He's
got some home run seasons though, right? It's not as if that's out of nowhere for Jonathan VR.
No, it's not. But this is not what is expected, and also from having our time with him as a J last year and just seeing a lot. Yeah, seeing a lot of the downfalls, or not downfalls, a lot of the negatives from him. It's hard for me to now see him on another team where he's supposed to literally be depth, and he's starting to get those things, those at bats, and it's coming together except for the average. So if I'm looking to catch up in a category, I would take VR, and as well, depending on your league, could have 3 position eligibility: shortstop, third, and second base. So, and hey, Ty, everybody loves a catcher.
Oh, except us.
Everybody loves a catcher when you need it, especially in 2 catcher leagues. And William Contreras with Atlanta could be your guy. 255 average, 10 runs, 13 RBIs, 4 dingers on the year, 24% owned in Yahoo. And young on a team that has Travis d'Arnaud, which means he is not supposed to be owned or valuable or of anything. But d'Arnaud has recoiled, as some people thought could happen. And here we are. William Contreras could be a guy, could be somebody to pick up right now, where you have, James McCann, who could be struggling on your team, other guys who are supposed to be good, who aren't getting it done. You could then pick up Contreras and roll for a couple of weeks and see where things go with him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Contreras is a guy that's going to get to play. I mean, d'Arnaud's back on the injury train, which riddled the first half of his career. And then everyone all of a sudden decided that he was never going to get hurt again, which is shocking because he had, 6 months of healthy play during a short season? Like, come on. We're not there yet. I mean, Contreras is a safe bet to be the starter long-term there, and d'Arnaud is the stopgap. So if you're in any long-term league, like, William Contreras is a must-own. But at the same time, his playing time will be split if d'Arnaud is healthy. So you make decisions accordingly on that one. But definitely an offensive side catcher with the upside on defense to stay in the lineup. Now, a guy that has reasonable defense and is our favorite guy at first base doing the splits, Ji-Man Choi is back, and in 17 at-bats, 471 average, 2 home runs already in the return. He also raked in the minors for anyone that was paying attention. But you know what? The thing is, he's been 1 for 4 for 3 straight days. Like, that's more traditional Ji-Man Choi. Like, go out there, he gets you 1 big hit a day. That's what he does. And he did it today against fellow countryman Hyun-Jin Ryu, laced a double that missed a home run by a couple feet off the left center fence, which then the Jays relayed and threw an absolute strike to throw your boy, Mike Brasso, at home plate.
My boy.
So Ji-Man Choi is just a good baseball player. Like, he's just one of those grinder guys that's going to help your team. The OPS numbers are going to be there. Needs to be owned, and might have slipped through a lot of radars here being injured to start the season. So not a lot of competition to split time, which is what we've seen for him over the last couple of seasons. So I think this is going to be his job full time this year for the first time. Now, he's still going to get pinch hit in big moments because that's just what Tampa Bay does.
T-Bay, baby.
Yeah, that's just what they do. Like, they will take Brasso or Yandy Diaz against the lefties. That's just what's going to happen. But I think if you're a betting person, like, Ji-Man Choi is going to start 80% of the games down the rest of the season at first base for the Rays.
So Ty, the last guy is Nikki Lopez, which is really sad, and we'll go really quick because he's just it sucks, but he's got a 231 average. on the year, 19 runs. How? 19 runs. How? 8 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, no power from him, but 3 stolen bases and a 306 average the last 2 weeks. So if you're looking for somebody that nobody cares about, because why should you? Nikki Lopez is kicking around. If it's points league, no way, because your steals are going to have to be worth 3 in order for him to possibly be a 3-point per game type guy. But that's it. Now, I want to take a quick detour, Ty, just briefly to talk about our home league, our listener league, the Dingers podcast Roto League that we do, where we have 15 teams. And as it stands tonight, prior to the start or just after the start of the late game, Sunday Night Baseball, we've got the Sandlot in first place, Return of the Mac in second, Sky in third, in a tie with Vancouver Canadians. Then Utah, 1 point back. Tourney Boss is in fifth. You can't choose
for fourth right now with the Canadians.
It shows no. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's within 1 point as I'm looking at this moment. Reese White, you can't choose these balls. I love his team name. 151 points in our 8x8. Then we've got Roto Ronnie coming in seventh. Fantasy Baseball Insights at eighth. I am in ninth and just starting to hit my stride here. St. Paul Saints in 10th. Tom Servo 11th, who I think was our runner-up last year. Maybe, I don't know. Wyland Bohemians 12th. Northwest Ivy is 13th. 5x5 guy is 14. And I guess that's why he's in 14th, because we're doing 8x8. And Roto Team 12. Love the team name. And the default hat is sitting in 15th, 58.5. So for us, and I'm only asking because in 6 minutes and change, our FAAB runs, our weekly waiver wire free agency goes. And I have a bid on one player. Are you looking to pick anyone up tonight? Our short bench makes it very difficult for me to do pickups. But I've decided that I'm going to start to thin out my MLB pitching core. I'm not there yet. Fewer guys.
I'm not there yet because the pitching is still beat up. I have some pitching depth, both at the major league level and at the graduating level, that I think is going to happen to me this season. So I have a healthy starting lineup right now with Mike Trout on the bench, with Nick Anderson, Jordan Hicks, Aaron Sanchez on the bench still. So none of the guys that I'm super excited about running out, but at the same time, like, I have the depth. Like, I like Sanchez though for Roto, because he's going to keep my whip down, right? He's going to keep the ball in the yard a lot of times. So I like that for a Roto format when we don't have capped innings. So that's my big thing that I like there. I can run him out there, when needed. And so that's what I like.
Okay. So, and that's a good point. We should mention. So in this format, we just had everybody as pitcher. So it didn't matter if you were SP, RP, we just did pitcher slots. So that way you could put in whoever you wanted. So I decided that I was going to completely punt relief pitching to start, but we also did saves and holds as one category and equal, which kind of helps you to concentrate more on your ratios and dominant pitchers versus just the guy that gets the save, because there are different schools of thought. And I do like the idea of having holds worth half of a point and a save worth 1. I think that's neat.
I did like that
in point
idea.
Formats. Yeah. But to our league standings, it's not it. But we only have a 4-man bench as well. And like so many dudes on our ILs, and like, every league, I think every league is at fault that's been running since 19 or earlier, where we had the weird 2020 and there were a lot of the IL stints, COVID related this year for needles and whatnot. But everybody needs to increase across all formats next year, because the 10-day IL is making a significant difference in how many fantasy relevant players seem to be going on it. Yes. So I think it's a valid thing. It's not a cop out where guys want to hoard players or anything like that, which is always a fear, something I try to avoid. But when we're talking dynasty, and we're at the point now where we are 50-ish, is that about right? We're around 50 MLB games in for most teams here. We're right around the 50. Some teams are a little short of that, but we're at the point in the season where now we can start to see trends that are happening. I think for fantasy leagues, things that I note is that every league I'm in now, it either needs to be moved to just straight up unlimited, but you can't pick a player up and just move them straight to your IL for next year, or it has to be 10, large enough that you can deal with like a crappy RP who you would otherwise drop, or if that gets hurt.
I don't like the
as
idea
well
of
as
being
all
able
your
to
elite players.
store on the IR though.
No. You not that. The whole point is that you can't pick somebody up off waivers who's hurt and then put them onto your IL. You have to have an open roster spot to do that. So, but either way, like once they're no longer on the IL, you'll have to have like, whatever it is, like a 2 or 3 day period of time, not an infinite amount of time. And I just wanted to bring up our listener league because we haven't in quite some time. And it is a fun league. I do enjoy looking at it every like 2 to 3 days. I kind of look at my lineup and think, no, I'm not changing anything but my pitchers because my lineup's pretty thin. And I keep on, because it's Dynasty, I keep on saying, well, I'm not, Ryan Mountcastle's going to turn it around. So when he had his big game earlier this week, I happen to have had him in. So I'm like, you know what, Mount, you're in, baby. You're sticking in. 5 outfielder format for us. So anyway, wanted to just say where all that's going. And yeah, so right now, Ty, I just looked and now it says you are tied for 4th. So good for you.
Thank you.
There it is.
Important correction.
Yeah. No, hey, give the man his due. It's the highest that I have seen any one of you, myself, or Ronnie since maybe week 3 of the season. So we all hung out in like 8 to 10 for a while.
My roto game is a slow roll. That's all I do. I roll roto and I finish the season strong and I play my teams accordingly. So I'm excited for the downstretch. I'm also excited to get Mike Trout back, which is a very important player to own in roto formats.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dudes to discuss at the end of this here who all look like they were questionable players in Dynasty, questionable players in redraft, and 0 people seem to predict them for breakouts outside of the 2 of us who thought good things could happen for them. Now, there will always be people that we're not listening to that we don't know about. The fantasy industry is huge, who are saying these were their guys too. That's fine. Yeah. We don't care. Well, we're just saying we were talking to you guys about this.
And this list is a great list because you and I don't even agree on this list, which is great. Right? So that makes it fantastic. So like Austin Riley might be the one that we agreed on. We both liked as a breakout guy. We watched a lot of playoff baseball and saw things happening for him. He's
your
here to
comment.
stay.
Sorry, Ty, your comment on Riley in the playoffs was one of the reasons why I thought twice about what was going on in Atlanta this offseason and thinking they must feel very confidently like Jerry DiPoto does with other dudes where they're going to turn it around. Like it doesn't look good today, but it is good. And some of those guys never get that opportunity. And it looks like Austin Riley not only has, but has taken it and run.
And it's one of the things that allows me to pick up on certain breakouts that other people don't, is that I watch the film a little bit differently than other people do. I'm watching situational scenarios. I'm watching what they do in certain counts, and I'm watching what they do with the meatballs and what they do with mistakes, and then what they do with pitches that weren't supposed to be there. And Austin Riley did a lot of good things, hitting balls really, really hard, right at people on mistakes. And so there's a lot for me to like with him. He's still got some refinement. Like there's not a ton of power hitters that come into the league polished. Like we just talked about Bobby Dalbeck before. And the next guy on this list is another guy, right? Jesse Winker is a guy that you liked to bust out, and he absolutely has. My thing for him is still the splits. Like I'm still very concerned about Jesse Winker's splits because they're still there and they're still concerning for me. Now, can you get value out of them? Absolutely, right? But if you look at what his season splits are, they're starting to diverge, right? So, he's still getting limited plate appearances against lefties. Only 36 so far, 32 at-bats. Only 1 of his 13 home runs is against lefties. Now, he's destroying righties. He's hitting 382 against them and has 12 home runs with a ridiculous almost 1,200, just under 1,200 OPS against the righties. So
it's not ridiculous if you expected it.
No, it's not. But that's the thing, though. Like when we talk about dynasty and deep leagues, especially, like these are great guys to have, in my opinion, in a redraft format where you have a deeper bench and you don't need a guy where you take him in the draft to be elite. But if you're taking him in a redraft in the 4th round or 3rd round, like he needs to be hitting against both splits. And that was more of my issue with him. It's just where you needed to draft him as opposed to what he gives to your team, I guess, is maybe where I'm trying to go.
Well, and he finally had a period of success, somewhat sustained success last year. And something that we were talking about before that was a little scary was that he seemed to be selling out for power, and he was a 1-for-1 K to walk guy. And all of a sudden, something new is happening with Jesse Winker. He's striking out a lot more. And I'm going to very quickly check here to see where he is strikeout to walk for the year. Because the last time I checked, I remember thinking, that's a little interesting. And it's 2-1 now. So that's about par for what I would think Jesse Winker is going to do moving forward. And I'm okay with that. But the big concern was that it was going to go to 3-1. And if it goes to 3-1, that means way less balls in play, way less run opportunity because he's not on base, way less RBI opportunity, and he's not doing that. So it's important as well that he's taking walks. He's not Kane a ridiculous amount and getting a bunch of walks. He's leveled it off a bit. And back to your point on Riley, same thing, Ty. Like the concern was, what's he going to do with balls in play? And he's making better contact. And I think he's got 9 Ks for the year now. I'm not sure. He hit 2 today.
When you say Ks, do you mean home runs?
Yes. Okay. What's the difference?
Just the way you were saying that, it sounded like you meant home runs, but I'm like,
I did. Yeah. I did. And I appreciate that you picked up on it, because that'd be one of those things where somebody would message me and say, at minute something, you said this. Did you mean this? And then I'll have to like go and listen and be like, yes, I am an idiot. I did mean that. Or they'll correct me, which is even worse. Yeah. Where someone's like, you said this. So getting it out of the way now and then talking about
all our Twitter wives out there that do correct us for when we say things incorrectly.
Yeah, like Riley's got 49 Ks, and this might be not counting the 2 yet today, and 20 walks. So it's not 2-1, but it's also not 4-1, which is something that could certainly be concerning. And last year, he actually had 49 Ks and 16 walks. So it's already up and improved slightly from last year. So there we go. Anyway, the floor is yours. Carlos Rodon.
I mean, it's just the guy, like all the trends were there. The fastball percentage has climbed way up. It's at a career high, 56.2% this season. That's the pitch that's setting him up. And we talked about his teammate a lot over the last couple of years, Reynaldo Lopez, really relying on the quality of the fastball, and his success pinned on that. Now, Rodon has done that. Now, what do you I'm going to just throw this at you, Rob, because I got it in front of me. Okay. What do you think his percentage of fastballs thrown in 2015 were?
And you said it was
52 this year.
52 this year.
Sorry, 56.2 this year.
I'll say he was throwing 65, throwing a lot.
28.7.
Oh, so he was trying to be like a junk pitcher.
He was trying to be a Tampa Bay Ray, where they throw 25, 25, 25, 25 on across 4 pitches. Right. But what it has done, though, is it's got him ahead in counts. And Carlos Rodon has 2 very good out pitches. And so if you give him the ability to get out, and the really funny thing is, he's throwing his curveball almost never. 2.4% of the time. It was non-existent.
Is it a strike when he's throwing it? Because no one's expecting it. I mean, it's very.
Let's see.
Probably thrown it 5, 8 times.
He's thrown it 17 times this year. Okay. And listen to this whiff percentage. What do you think it is? 17 pitches.
100.
100%.
No one knows it's coming.
Yeah, it is 100%. Which is phenomenal, and it's exactly how you use your 4th pitch. Like it's
I was gonna say that's the back pocket pitch, right? When you are out of gas, or you cannot get whomever it is out. Well, you're in your division game, and you want to get that 6th inning. You want to get into that set, whatever it is. That's when you throw that pitch out.
His slider is right, so he has 0 putaways with the curveball. Right, it's a get me over. It's a middle of the account type pitch, but. The big thing with Carlos Rodon, and I've been talking to about this in one of our leagues, Robbie, where I'm trying to trade him. But no, it's because I'm rebuilding. It's because I'm rebuilding in that league. It has nothing to do with Carlos Rodon being like a Trevor Rogers scenario where I want to win or whatever, right? This is just my team is destroyed.
The best return.
And I was having a very frank conversation with the guy on the other side, and we had a lot of good chat about it because I was trying to get some good pitchers coming back for him. But I just said to him, I said, listen, like he made mechanical changes this season for the first time in his career. His stuff has always been good. His feel for his pitches has always been good, but his body has always let him down because, you see this in certain athletes in pro across all sport, like Tiger Woods, great example. His body couldn't handle his swing. Rodon was like that. He could not handle the torque he put on his body, but he's freed himself up. And I talked about it. I've mentioned this in our podcast previously, but he's open, and this is who he is. Is he going to be sub 1 all season? Absolutely not. Like He's
Right.
probably going to settle in the mid twos, upper twos by the time we get through this season, and contend for a Cy Young if he stays healthy, right? Like that's
He's
who
on a
he
team that
is.
can pile up wins for him still, right?
And
Like,
he was drafted to beat this guy. Like we
right.
shouldn't be surprised by this. So, you know, it's just one of those things. The stuff has always been good. It's just been the health. That's what it is for me. And everything points to the continuation of this. I said to the guy in the trade, I'm like, listen, like I think his arm troubles are behind him because of the mechanical changes. Doesn't mean he can't blow to hammy, right? That can still happen to this guy.
Talk to Josh Donaldson owners about when you think things are going well, and then that is Josh Donaldson. And I was gonna put a Donaldson joke in earlier when you were talking about Rodon making some real changes and thinking, you know, whose body can't handle aspects of, you know, baseball. It's Josh Donaldson's calves can't handle the action of running, but that would also go to Giancarlo Stanton, whose body can't handle smacking the snot out of the ball.
Guy. He's a calf guy.
Yes,
though.
he's a calf guy.
And the problem is that he took money out of his bank account to buy his mom a car, and it impacted his cash cow, and now he's got calf problems. See what I did there?
Oh my
See
God.
that was a stretch.
All right, so let's go to fun, happy news, right? Chris Bryant is a relevant fantasy baseball player. Yay! As of tonight in 8x8, which is standard what we talk about, prior to this year was standard what we always talked about because it includes your strikeouts, your walks, as well as your OPS. He is 14th as of this moment. Third base, outfield eligible, depending on your format. Last year, he had a 206 average in 131 at bats. This year in 150, 307 OPS, 1010 this year. 42 Ks, 22 walks. I'll take that. Heck of a lot better than last year when he was over 3-1, almost 4-1, 40 Ks and 12 walks. The boy is seeing the ball better. 2 stolen bases this year, which is great to see. 28 RBIs, 32 runs, 10 dingas. And I am a happy Chris Bryant owner. I made a trade a couple years ago where it was like Giolito, Moncada, and something else that was of some level of relevance. Oh, Kevin Biggio. And I got Chris Bryant. And people were like, my God, you crushed that trade. And I was like, I did, didn't I? And then Giolito broke out.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, which like I have to say, I owned a lot of Giolito prior to that year. So I was like, I can deal him away in this points format to get like that stud third baseman. And in another trade, it just so happened to work out that I got Josh Donaldson. Whatever the reasoning behind that one was, I don't recall anymore. But it was like, well, why not just load up? Because Brian can also be outfield for me. So I'm good there. And then in 2020, I was like, my God, one of you please be useful this week in my points league. And now this year, Brian's just crushed. I'm so happy to see it.
The power of the contract season. I mean,
you think, yeah, that's what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, listen, like he's not a bad baseball player by any stretch. Is he an MVP, which is the way some people still try to value him and are trying to justify it again this season? No chance. He's just not that guy. He is a great third baseman, outfielder, whatever position he plays these days. Mm-hmm. But he's not MVP. So for me, like I'm selling on Brian because I think this is the last peak, and it might be not now,
okay.
Maybe in a couple weeks when you get into that 15 to 20 home run territory. Right. That might be where I'm selling, but he's the kind of guy that I could see being bought by an American League team and then really struggling with the switch in leagues.
I've got an MLB for you, and then I've got a dynasty for you. So MLB,
yep.
Would Chicago take, the rest of season and 3 more years of Kevin Biggio for Chris Bryant? Would that be a 1-for-1, or would the Cubbies not want that because it's not useful to them for their window?
I just don't know why Toronto would do that, having a utility guy like Biggio for a rental.
Just because of the Lourdes factor with multiple guys that could move around. So
much depth in Toronto coming that it would be a premium. Because, Tampa Bay and New York are still very good, but they're aging. Toronto's just about to enter the prime window. Like they're at the beginning of the window because guys like Vladdy and Bo are generational talents and they're peaking and they're going to peak for a long time
simultaneously.
Yeah, but they're still not in the window. So I think that would be a silly move by Toronto front office to give up that control for a guy that, again, like I said, switching leagues would struggle.
Right.
Like I firmly believe that he would.
Okay. Now, would you trade in Dynasty? So your team is obviously not in contention, but you are a Chris Bryant owner.
Mm-hmm.
Would you trade him for MLB talent on down years like a Kevin Biggio? Or would you want in return that 2 elite prospect type return? What would you want as a Chris Bryant owner if you're dealing?
I'm the wrong person to answer this question because I'm not a
one?
Chris Bryant owner anywhere, and I'm not going to be anytime soon. So I don't want to provide my slanted bias answer to that question because I think a lot of people
That's fair.
would be able to justify that question and say that they would take Bryant, and it's not a bad move.
Maybe I'll put that out on Twitter then. I'll put that for everyone because I'm a Chris Bryant owner in 3 dynasties, I think. And in those dynasties, all of my teams are doing well enough that at this point in time, I'm not concerned with trading those guys away. I would not consider a trade.
Simply put, he's just not a guy I traditionally own. It's that simple for me. So I'm okay. He would be comparable to Machado, who I am an owner of, right? So it's hard.
Well, let's do the last guy. We got one guy left then, because we'll deal with the Twitter thing, and then if there's anything that comes from that, we can discuss it on Thursday when we do prospect pitching episode on. We're recording Thursday. I don't know if it comes out whenever it comes out. Last guy tonight is Mitch Haniger, 257 average on the year, 32 runs, 31 RBIs, beautiful, and 13 home runs. Now, 1 home run in the last 2 weeks. I fear that might be because we sent out a troll tweet about Tommy Pham versus Mitch Haniger, and I still think it's okay. And I feel like 257 is like a perfect average for Mitch Haniger to finish this year at. It's a question of, are we going to see 515 at bats, or are we going to see 330? And I'm loving Mitch Haniger right now. I'm loving the rebound. I'm sad that where he was a free agent in a couple leagues, like salary-based leagues, I was unable to get him because a couple guys desperate for outfielders were willing to just spend up to a level beyond my my ability. And I also made the mistake in a league of getting Victor Reyes with Detroit. And I mean, prior to the season starting, we all thought that was a pretty safe acquisition to get a guy who we thought could be a breakout candidate. Well, it turns out he's spitting around at AAA, which we'll touch on Reyes on Thursday as well, just to see some of those guys who we thought good things of that are not doing well. But anyway, Mitch Haniger, what are your thoughts on him? I know you are not a Seattle lover, but Mitch Haniger has just been a good baseball player.
For me, it's simple. Like, there's just too much injury risk, which is why I stay away from him. Like, the one thing I've always done in my leagues with outfielders that I try to grab safe guys in the outfield, because generally the infield has a little bit more volatility to the injury side. So I like to build a lot of my depth with outfielders or infielders that have outfield eligibility, right? So like you look at our home league team, I had Happ and Biggio and Brandon Lau, and I have 3 guys with depth in the outfield, right? And so that gave me depth behind Mancini and Teoscar and the other guys that I got out there.
Well, you're outfield in our home league. I have it. These are outfield eligible players that Ty currently owns, and this is not shaming you whatsoever. You've got Kelnick, who was your rookie that you drafted. You've got Mountcastle. You've got Biggio, who's on the IL. Brandon Lau, who ratio-wise has been interesting, but he's got some counting stats to work. Alvarez, because it's Yahoo. Jordan Alvarez is an outfielder. Stupid. Michael Brantley, Teoscar Hernandez, and Trey Mancini, all outfield eligible. A lot of outfield eligible players. But
they're all infield eligible as well, except for those last couple. Right.
Well,
so that's what I'm getting at, though. I've been able to build my infield depth, which has been valuable because I've had Tatis go down multiple times. I've had Seager down now. I have Machado down now. So I've been able to fill those gaps with those guys until the last day or two when Machado's been out with a sore shoulder. So
are you looking to trade Jared Kelnick since he sucks?
No. Come
on, man. He's got a 139 average, a 483 OPS. The only thing he's done that helps you is he's got 1 stolen base. Give it to me. I'll give you a let's see. Who's the guy on my roster?
Do I look like Sandy Alderson?
Hold on. Let me figure. I'll give you Nick Pivetta.
Yeah, hard no.
Pavetta's 148 overall. Anyway, so these are fun trade talks, people. I only wanted to say, because I like the fact that your outfield is fairly diverse in the home league. Like I've got Kyle Lewis, who's sitting on my bench because I'm waiting for him to turn it around. But that's also because I've got Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Juan Soto as my outfielders. So I'm doing okay in the outfield. But yeah, so we've got a bunch of dudes. Mitch Haniger, I'm happy. I agree with you though, Ty. Super potential injury risk, which is why I said we could see a cap of like 330 at bats. So if I owned him and somebody was interested in a deal, I am all ears, because the return on Haniger to this point in time would be an absolute victory. And in Dynasty, don't think of it as a bad thing. If you sell on a guy and he still has another good year, and whoever it is that you get back in return struggles, it's about being able to have a roster that can take on those guys. Like I have a league where I traded Tyler Glasnow, who he's done at the end of this year in that league. He becomes a restricted free agent. Someone's going to offer him like $50 million of our 215 million cap, whatever it's going to be. There's no way I could afford him. So I traded for 1-3 in the draft, and I drafted Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim can sit in my minors all year long if he doesn't turn around. He's been better, but it's a points league, so I can't start him. And the other guy I got back was Luis Garcia with Washington. And that was not my favorite acquisition, but I was like, this could be a guy. And I still feel that way, and I still have him sitting on my bench, and I'm waiting it out. And I think that was our deal. I'll have to double check if there's anything else to it, because it seems light now to do it that 2-for-1. But either way, 1-3 in the draft, I felt that I could make that smart move. And sometimes you got to make those moves. So if it's Mitch Haniger at his peak right now, because look at what Tyler Glasnow is doing, and look at the two bums I just talked about, right? I'm getting crushed in that trade. I'm losing that trade, but it's long game. It's Dynasty. So Mitch Haniger right now, you could trade. He could finish the year strong. He could get traded elsewhere. Whatever could happen, right? Mitch Haniger could still have possibly 2-3 solid years left, but you could pick up 10 years worth of good player. It's a matter of making that trade work for you. And if you do have any questions about that, hit us up at Dingers Pod, hit up Ty at Tourney Boss, or myself at Robbie Baseball 1, and we will walk you through it. I do thank the people who are DMing me. As we said before, as we've been saying for a while, feel free to just at Dingers Pod your questions so that we can retweet, comment, and help you and get more eyes on it, because we want you to beat everybody in your league. But we also wouldn't mind if a couple dudes from your league were listening as well. And then maybe somebody works at Waterloo Brewing Company and they want to pay me to drink Waterloo Dark, right? Or maybe a different Waterloo brewing beverage. This Bose Lug Tread, by the way, solid.
Yeah, I'm
solid
a fan of Bose Lug Tread. Yeah, I am also a fan.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank everyone again for joining us in another episode of Let's Get Fabulous here on Sunday night, brought to you by your friends here at Dingers, Rob and Tyler. But until next time, it's been those same very people that have brought you this episode, Tyler and Rob.